Well, hello everyone. Hello from India. Yes, that's where I am since 10 days now, a little more, and still no suitcase. Yes, you wouldn't believe the email I received after filing a missing suitcase with Air Canada. If you need assistance, there's a 45-day waiting period. Okay. Anyway, I take it lightly. I have still a few things, and I have here friends who help me out. So anyway, that's the situation of our world. A fractal, I would call it. A fractal of everything disintegrates. Really, defragmentation is going on this planet right now. All the systems break down. That's just one sign, so be prepared. If I would go back, I would not check the suitcase through, because there were 3 different legs to my travel. I mean, around the globe, pretty much from Canada to India. It's a 12.5-hour time difference as I'm recording this. It's 6 p.m. here on the 21st of January, and well, you guys are 12 hours behind, so I'm coming from the future. How about that? I'm from tomorrow, always, as long as I'm here. Okay, anyway, Happy New Year. Year of the Water Rabbit starting tomorrow, and it's a spectacular chart, super powerful, as it's within. You see, this is the new moon when the year starts. That's how it's defined in the Chinese system. It's actually the new moon, which is between winter solstice and spring equinox. And as these are the 2 most important turning points in the year, the winter solstice, when the sun is at the lowest degree over the northern hemisphere, being reborn when the light gradually gets longer again, and naturally then the spring beginning of when the sun is crossing the equator and then becoming focused on the northern hemisphere, therefore initiating the natural cycle, the growth cycle of nature, flowering, flourishing, and bringing harvest. Yes, so that whole survival of life is depending naturally on that cycle, which starts then on the 21st of March. So what I want to say is, it's that midpoint between these 2 important turning points, kind of the winter solstice being the inception, the conception, it's putting the roots into the ground, and then by spring equinox you have the shoots coming out and it's all getting green. That's kind of the idea. So that midpoint between those 2 points, as always, midpoints are super important. As I often say, everything in life is about relating. We come into this world and then we start relating first to our mother, to our body, to our siblings, to the environment. It's always a relationship. That's what life is all about. So that's why the midpoint charts bear very special power. This is the midpoint in that sense, not exact to the day, but as the new moon being the beginning of a new cycle anyway, happening every 30 days. So to fine-tune it to that new moon makes total sense, as time kind of has that quality of a rubber band, you could say. Sometimes time can stretch, sometimes time is very compressed. 1 second can appear like a year, and the same thing can be, 1 year can be appearing like a second. But overall, it always equalizes again itself. itself again. So anyway, this is the long story short why that new moon in Aquarius, you see you have winter solstice at 0 degrees Capricorn, and then spring equinox at 0 degrees Aries. So naturally it's the sign Aquarius which is kind of in the center here. If we think of any random year winter solstice, then we have the first new moon after, the second new moon after, the third new moon after, and then we have the spring equinox sometime coming. So naturally the second new moon is the center point starting a new year. Yes, the year of the rabbit. We come out of the year of the tiger, of the water tiger. Every year ending with a 2 and a 3 are water years. So this is again, maybe just quickly say that for those new to this concept, it's very, very powerful. The 5 elements in the Chinese zodiac, all years ending with 0 and 1 are metal. That means it's about the highest improvement upon nature of bringing the intellect, because metal has to be extracted from the earth. That's not something which is natural available. So really the cycle starts with 2 and 3 in that sense, with water. Every year ending in 2 and 3 has the quality of water, water being naturally connecting everything. Water is connected to the moon. It is the, I mean, our bodies are over 90% of water. So water is really the equivalent to spirit and to that field which interconnects everything. Naturally, emotions are very much water. So like last year, 2022, so will be 2023, a year ruled by water. More on that soon. Particularly as Saturn is entering Pisces on March the 7th. So that's a story in itself. We will get to that in a while. I still want to say a few things about that, but let's still wait with that. So what I want to say, the water rabbit, well, let's just finish my thought. I'm often getting sidetracked, so I try to stay focused. So 2, 3, water, 4, 5, wood, means you're being your ruling element, and then 6 and 7 years ending are fire, and 8 and 9 earth. And you can research on that. There's plenty of information, the 5 elements in the Chinese system. Okay. And the water rabbit it will be now. We come out of a water tiger year. Tiger resonates in many ways to the sign Aries, and this cycle goes actually backward through the zodiac. And naturally, the tiger is not all just Aries, but it is the closest in its frequency. So we come out of that Aries energy, and oh boy, have I ever been correct with the prediction of the last 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? This is a extremely dense time of big events. It's kind of the dominoes have started falling. So many new people are coming forward and really sharing what they know, being honest and open, and no fear, because it's anyway too late. There's too many of us now. We are winning. There is no question to this, and this water rabbit is super important and interesting for that reason. So we come out of the tiger. The tiger has been kind of initiating and quite wild and fierce at times, so we come into a totally different frequency with the rabbit. It's actually always a yang year followed by a yin year. That's another one to keep in mind. So the yang year of 2022 is followed by the yin year of 2023. The rabbit resonating with the sign Pisces. Subdued, quiet. Well, really? It's more that behind the scene and kind of you could almost call it subversive. It can't be directly detected where things are going. So that's kind of the energy of this year, coming very gentle in general, very empathic, friendly, beautiful, appreciating harmony and all the things enjoyable in life, music and you name it, nature naturally. Very important to get to expose yourself to all these beautiful things. That's actually really what will balance many of the more darker sides, and definitely the one which stands out is Saturn, who's now in the final degrees of Aquarius and entering Pisces on the 7th of March. And this will be a real turn in narrative. Saturn is the planet which is connected to karmic issues. It is the great teacher. It brings us the lessons we are to learn. In Aquarius, the lesson was definitely about building society from the scratch up again, and this is even more important over a longer period of certainly 20 years or so, because this was also the sign where Jupiter and Saturn had their big conjunction in December 2020. We get to that in a minute, because it was pretty much in this location where we have this new moon where Jupiter and Saturn were meeting, starting that big new cycle, that 20-year cycle, which will take us in the year 2040. So we're just finishing that first of 12 signs of Saturn was in Aquarius, building the foundations of that new social network. And naturally with the sign Aquarius, this has a lot to do with the virtual space. The internet has become really super important, I guess, for obvious reasons, as we were not allowed to physically meet one another. This became really offering itself as a wonderful alternative. It's definitely not the same as meeting in real life and getting to feel one another, but it's a great definitely better than nothing. Much better than nothing, actually. Yes, so it is that Uranian energy which was center stage in many ways for these last 2 years, and this is coming to a phase change, if you want, by early March as we're entering Pisces. Pisces isn't it really not the best place for Saturn to be? It's quite a dark placement. It's the 12th house energy, and Saturn in the 12th house is related to karmic issues, and also it has that collective note to it that we are uniting and cleaning up collective karma. I guess that's pretty obvious what that means in this present day and time and age, coming out of that awakening to some really dark stuff, which is just about surfacing into the collective psyche in a much bigger way. it's coming through all the cracks, even though these media companies try to patchwork and immediately dismiss and fire and you name it, people who are just even daring. You get thrown out of all the social networks if you're saying one word too many. So anyway, there's this tremendous pressure. It's like a dam which is almost breaking. It's happening very, very soon, and Mars in Gemini is definitely playing a key role in that whole unraveling. But let's stay for a moment with Saturn in Pisces. This will be the theme for the next 2 years, basically. So we have to prepare for that, be ready to be there for one another and to alleviate all that suffering and share as much as we can, just really to be generous and open-hearted and friendly and overcome all kinds of divisions. So the black moon, let's focus on this guy for a minute. The black moon entered Leo just about 10 days ago on the 8th of January. The black moon is the place in the moon's orbit where the moon is farthest away from Earth. The moon has an elliptical orbit around Earth, as pretty much all orbits of all planets and everything is elliptical, distorted circles, you could say, a little bit off-center. There's very few which are almost circular, which is another story, but most of them are a little bit elliptical. That means there's one spot where that planet or body or whatever it is closest to the sun, and there is another one where it is farthest away from the sun, which is then the aphelion, and the closest the perihelion, or perigee and apogee if you are referencing it to Earth. So every 9 months this sign is changing. It takes 9 months, in other words, for the black moon, that place where the moon is farthest away and closest to Earth, so that whole orbit of the moon is shifting. It's constantly shifting. That's one special thing about the moon. Pretty much all other celestial objects have a fixed frame in that sense, and they're over thousands of years, almost no change in the direction of various closest, various farthest. Not so the moon. Once in 9 years, which is interesting, the number 9 there, that spot where the moon is farthest and closest to Earth is traveling through the whole zodiac. Once every 9 years it comes back to the same spots. And if you divide the 9 years, which is 108 months, if you divide that by 12, you get 9 months in each sign. Interesting. So for the past 9 months, the black moon, that spot where the moon is farthest from Earth, was in Cancer. Now, what is that moon, that spot really? What is its meaning? It is a shadow point. It's where that energy is almost disappearing out of our reality. So for that, there is that kind of emotional attachment of losing something. It's going off ever farther away. That's kind of the sensation. It's also a kind of that deepest trench in the ocean where things are just accumulating particularly all the unresolved emotional issues, as the moon is about emotions and moods, and that more primal self of ours, of being in tune with nature and being nourished from that natural rhythm of coming and going, of day and night, of waves coming in, going out. So the last 9 months with that shadow point in Cancer, naturally that was when that whole wound really was breaking open big time. Many of us have come to experience very difficult emotional scenarios with friends and relatives falling sick and passing away in unprecedented numbers. Everybody who does the basic research and knows what's happening. This is kind of where we're coming from. Now in Leo, the black moon, now that shadow point will be for the next 9 months, so pretty much into fall, into October or so. So the perception of that shadow has shifted into a new energy. The sign Leo is naturally represented by fire, by that combustion, and bring everything into the light, giving it weight and power and fuel. So with the black moon in that sign, and naturally when it entered, you see the moon was here too, which is not to be expected. So only once every 28 days the moon comes into this sign. So this was a synchronicity. And with the black moon and the moon in Leo both, this is definitely giving some power and some volume to this black moon to become openly visible, very illuminated. Very important that we understand also that whole perception of good and evil has to be recalibrated. Jacqueline Hobbs had just a wonderful insight on that in one of her latest reboots. I strongly recommend, if you have not done that yet, go visit oraclegirl.org. She is really at the cutting edge of the spiritual evolution we are going through right now as a planetary whole. She is kind of the organizer, that's how I see it. She is the one who is able to tell what's going on an energetic level like no one else. So anyway, she says, be super aware that polarity of good and evil is very, very dangerous. She says there is the polarity of nature, of who we are basically, and then there is this alien energy which is neutral at first, but if there is an opening for whatever reason in the natural fabric of who we are, if we particularly go through trauma and hurt, which is creating holes, so to say, in our luminous egg, which we are, as if we are complete in ourselves, we have this complete aura. So this aura becomes vulnerable to some degree, and when this alien energy then is coming in, then it corrupts human beings and they act negatively. So the whole understanding here is that we have to heal people in that sense. Everybody is potentially holy in that sense. That's where the word comes from. If we can extract and remove that alien energy which appears, which makes then the person infected appear to act whatever, we could say evil, but it is really just a negative expression based on coercion. And if the infestation becomes extremely intense, then naturally it is taking over that persona completely and almost replacing it. However, it is to be understood as being an infestation, a parasitic energy which is overruling the natural inhabitant of that body. So that's one thing which I think resonates extremely well with the sign Leo, as it explains this, that at the core we are pretty much indestructible. So if that parasitic energy can be removed, then we come back to shining in our full glory as we are meant by God, by existence, by the Creator to be, uninfested, with all the parasites removed. That is where we're heading as a collective, and that is really the path towards that oneness, that golden future of having edited out all that alien frequency intervention. That's where we are going. We are deleting that band completely from reality. That is the premise. So anyway, this is a big story I'm telling you here, but it is super important, and this chart definitely shows how powerful these next 9 months will be. It's coming to understand. I guess that's what it really is, and Jacqueline Hobbs does a great job here in bringing this perception into the right angle. And no wonder here we have Pallas conjunct Earth. Pallas is a very special asteroid. You see, it has that square structure, kind of a rhomboid. It's angled. If you look at Venus, Venus is is the closest in that sense, but it's kind of an artist's conception of nature. That's what it could be. You modify it, you put it into your own perspective, into your own understanding. No surprise, Pallas is the asteroid which has to do with art and science. It is understanding the patterns and extracting them and kind of being able to, for abstraction and to explain something. A teacher has usually a very strong Pallas, and naturally it resonates with Mercury. Mercury being the planet of the ability to express ourselves, and Mercury has lots to do with perception too. It is the energy of sharing thoughts and ideas, and Pallas is then refining those. So anyway, the long story short, this Pallas Earth conjunction, Pallas opposing the Sun, therefore, and also Mercury and Pluto. So this stellium here of Mercury, Sun and Pluto at first shows that there is a tremendous ability in the general public to crystallize and to work together. These are the two keywords Dane Rudyard gives for the sign Capricorn: crystallization and group performance. Crystallization are the first 15 degrees, the second half is about group performance, really about bringing us together into frequency match. It's that alignment which is necessary in order to understand and come to an agreement. Not that we have to completely agree with all and everything, but we have also to agree to disagree and to agree to only value what matters and be able to really exclude whatever is artificially trying to sway us against one another. Pluto and Mercury, that's challenging our intelligence, and it is also nice that Mercury was still retrograde at this time when the black moon entered Leo. Means the Mercury was in that more open space. When it's retrograde, it's kind of able to have a second look. Yeah, was I really right? Is that kind of how things should be? Or maybe I have to do a little course correction. So we have seen lots of course corrections over the last 3 weeks. Certainly, most certainly, Mercury has just started to move forward again on the 18th. So it is really this new year is starting under a powerful ammunition which has been just loaded into our system of Mercury being direct again. Now starting to act on these deep insights we have gained over the last 3 weeks. Also Mars naturally just turned direct a few days ago. You see here on the 8th it was still retrograde too, so it's interesting that the black moon was kind of the first one to really shift gears. Mars changed on the 12th, 13th of January, moving direct again since, and Mercury, as I said, the 18th. The other one which stands out here, which makes this moon, black moon, even more strong, is the presence of this source point. This is the midnight point if you stand on Earth's zero meridian, which goes from north to south pole or vice versa through Greenwich. That's why I'm taking Greenwich. For those of you who are kind of new, Greenwich is 1/7 of a circle from the equator, and the number 7 being the one which is most strongly resonating with the bigger cosmic frequencies. The 7 is also a number which has, if you divide a circle by 7, you get kind of a number with infinite numbers after the comma. If you get that, it's kind of, it cannot really be captured in the binary system. You could say there's something which is always missed. That's kind of one of the special things about the 7. That's a reason I'm taking that place as a fractal. Naturally, there's also the Royal Observatory, which is there, which was the beginning of structuring Earth's time zones. where Earth really became first a global unit. So there's many things in there, but what I want to say, that fourth house cusp here in Leo, the 11th degree, which resonates with the Sagittarian frequency here, the degrees 10 to 12, 30 particularly, that's the dwad of Sagittarius. So anyway, what I want to say really here is that symmetry, you see, the moon is perfectly between the black moon at 0 and the fourth house cusp, the source point where the plumb line is, which grounds us, roots everything at 10:51. If you take the exact half point, it would be 5:26. You see, it couldn't be much more exact. Meaning, yes, it's becoming a really big theme, this black moon, over the next 9 months. Believe me or not, that's the core issue here. Anything and everything which follows from here for the next 9 months is carrying this frequency we are looking at here. And then with the Gemini rising, with Mars here, Mars is now moving forward and steadily getting closer to this ascendant here. I just did that before. I wanted to show you. This is an ephemeris for Mars. Let me just expand it again here. Okay, move it a little bit to the side so you can see the chart still. Okay, here we go. So see, I want to show you when will Mars cross the ascendant here, 1614. That will be somewhere around February 21st, just short before. And the Sun is actually entering Pisces short before. Mars is then entering, Saturn is entering Pisces on the 7th of March. So this Mars is now steadily getting closer here into the center degrees of Gemini. Gemini being Mercury's sign. Mercury just moved now direct again, as we said, so there's lots of ammunition here. Mercury is getting from Mars. Actually, they're in let me just go to this chart, back to the one of today. You see, Mercury has been changing direction in a perfect angle with Mars, 150 degrees here. You see, that is an additional kind of sign that Mars and Mercury are working closely together right now, and the midpoint of the 2023, that is where Neptune is, here together with Astrea and Vesta. A nice team here, a very nice team. The two asteroids again. So overall, this is about dismantling and cleaning up that Neptunian frequency, and also allowing people to see the many layers there are, because Neptune is the one which tries to deceive and to pretend things which are not. It's kind of that whole there's many layers to reality, and depending how deep you are able to see, what is your ability to focus, are you stuck on the superficial level, or are you able to go deeper? That's kind of the whole thing which is happening now. I did a couple of recordings a couple months ago about the powerful influence of Saturn these days with Neptune. Actually, in Neptune's discovery chart, and Saturn played a major role in getting to uncloak that Neptunian character. You have to go back to that recording. It's really a special story, which goes back to Galileo Galilei, to 1609, when he would have been able to discover Neptune. He actually observed it and thought it was a star. Anyway, that's a big story, but Saturn played a super important role in detaining Neptune, and Saturn is back this last year and this coming year. Actually, right now in these months, it's making its last exact conjunction to the position where Saturn was in Neptune's discovery chart, 23rd of September 1846 that was. So anyway, Saturn plays a major role in helping again to uncloak all that deception and make it visible, bring it into the foreground of people's perception. That's what we're working on. As soon as we have really succeeded in this job, everybody will be on the same page, and that's our victory, because that's really, again, that other frequency, which is not originally from here, is able to hold power and keep people captivated and captive, as long as it is able to keep people in disarray and working against each other. So this is really where we are going here, and this Mars Mercury quincunx 150 degrees is a really, I mean, it can't get much better. A quincunx is kind of a stretch. You have to support yourself with two extreme points. You could say the tips of your toes and the tips of your fingers. So there is this tension, and you're bridging a huge gap. You're able to also kind of bring stereo vision in, because your two places of support are so different places. It's not quite an opposition, which in a way takes the charge a bit out of it. Anyway, it's a very super important angle in astrology, 150 degrees. So yes, let's now zoom in. I guess I now laid the foundations for what I wanted to put in place. I mean, there's more things here, but let's just look at this chart for a minute. So you see the black moon, where the moon is farthest away from Earth, 129. Naturally, the other side of this axis is where the moon would be closest to Earth, so that new moon is a supermoon. I guess that's what meanwhile has been something which is widely used, that term. A supermoon means the moon is either closest to Earth or farthest away from Earth. That means that new moon and full moon are happening within degrees of this axis. That's what it means. So this is a super new moon. This in itself adds enormous weight. It's the closest new moon in 12 months. And it is conjunct Pluto here over the edge of the sign, and it is conjunct where Jupiter and Saturn met in the year 2020. And let me just go back here to this chart for a minute. That was when heliocentric Jupiter and Saturn had their conjunction on November the 2nd, 2020, and you will immediately know, I mean, those of you who have been following me for a while, they have heard of that story, but that was a remarkable discovery that this happened just at the eve of these elections, and you definitely know what I mean. I don't want to go too deep. We had different expectations. It was throwing us a few sticks into the wheels, but in retrospect, one could see that this could be expected, that something unexpected could happen. Well, this chart was interesting. So this is Jupiter and Saturn heliocentrically aligning at 149 Aquarius in the heliocentric geometry. And just go back here again to show you the degrees. 132, that is where this new moon is. So this new moon, which starts this year of the rabbit, is in strong resonance with that Saturn-Jupiter conjunction of 2020. Certainly the heliocentric even more so. So we could probably think that whatever has gone wrong around that time, early November 2020, will be brought into a more exact perspective than one could expect so far. I mean, just show you or tell you a few things which in retrospect really stand out and show that there will be surprise and disruption to some degree. First, we have the Uranus-Earth conjunction in this chart. Actually, that's where right now pretty much the nodal axis is, so that's another activation of this chart. So you see 842, 1048. If you go to this present chart and you have 931, 931, that is the axis of the nodes right now, pretty much exactly in between here. So Earth Uranus, naturally, that is a stressful aspect, challenging us to jump through a few hoops. Also, the equatorial point conjunct Sedna could have given us some indication that this difficult phase wouldn't be over so quick. Sedna has definitely shown itself strongly pretty much since the onset of this health crisis we are in since early 2020. That separation and going through kind of a deep separation from everything and anything we were used to. It's kind of that getting also acquainted with darkness, as Sedna is coming from a deep dark womb, going as far as 1,000 times from the sun as Earth is to the sun. 1 AU is the distance from Earth to the sun. Sedna is close to 1,000, so this is really coming out of that darkness energy. Then interesting here, this chart, that conjunction of vertex, which is the higher dimensional meeting point of everything, of our consciousness. This is kind of the more physical meeting point where we intersect, where we touch each other, but the vertex is kind of the ideal where we meet each other in our worlds of what we want to accomplish, what is important. It's kind of a very spiritual focal point. Mid Scorpio, Here also naturally under a Scorpio Sun, as seen from Earth. If we go to the geocentric chart for a moment, in a minute you will see. But first I want to say this vertex Juno conjunction, yes, this is this has given the kind of it has set the direction of how we interact with each other, support one another from a deeply passionate place. Scorpio. Also, there's no it's intense. It's very intense, and there's no room for deception and abuse. All that thing is kind of cancelled out because Scorpio is seeing these things. So Scorpio has that keen observation of, and it's not that the observation on the visible level, it is really sensory. Scorpios are super able to perceive frequencies which are not fully visible. So it is kind of deep, intense, and also once that bonding is happening, it's happening at the very intimate and personal level. This is where we're heading to in a bigger way. So just one more thing I want to show you here. This same moment in the geocentric manifestation, I particularly like this here a lot. This actually was making me way more optimistic at first that we would go immediately into that dynamic growth. Jupiter and Pluto here, the part of fortune. Pallas is here too, and then there is Arrokoth not far away. Arrokoth is the one which is really pulling the curtains open and showing how everything is connected with everything else. That ability to see the full picture in its integration, something which is really now happening in at great lightning speed. You can go back to my last few recordings. I show you how powerful Arrokoth is placed. So anyway, this in itself is a fast and furious expansion of that energy of hexagram 61, inner truth. It's kind of almost prying that core open, so it's expanding itself. Pluto in there, naturally we had the Pluto-Saturn conjunction in that, very close to this degree too, in January of 2020, I guess it was something like 2240 or something. So also naturally this chart has this frequency of Saturn conjunct Pluto. Excuse me. So anyway, just wanted to show you this is huge potential here in the Saturn Jupiter conjunction. Is just about getting accessed here in a more fundamental way, with this year starting to open its doors. One more chart I want to show you here in that context also is then the geocentric Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, which was on December 21st, 2020, just a couple months after the one we just looked at. And then here, this is now as seen from Earth. Jupiter and Saturn at 0 degrees 29 in Aquarius. Again, this chart in itself also was giving a great outlook. One thing I should mention, which I haven't really talked much about, between 26 degrees and something of Capricorn and 2 degrees of Aquarius, this is hexagram 60, restraint. Restraint is to put a cap on something, kind of limit its expression, go very gradual from one place to the next, kind of limited and restrained, constrained, all those words. At the time I was kind of contemplating how this could express, I guess, what I saw at the time, and this is still holding true, is that this great opening into the next 20 years, which pretty much is the roots here of that. This is the seed which is planted for that phase into 2040, when Jupiter and Saturn will meet next time. That's their cycle, 20 years, every 20 years those two meet. So it kind of, we know that already. The next 20 years will be phenomenal. So many new curtains will be opened, so many unexpected twists and turns with opening to the galactic neighborhood and all of that, that higher frequency of how we interact and meet with one another, new forms of society. Everything will be redone from scratch. So the restrained energy in that sense makes sense, as we have to really restrain ourselves to not get overwhelmed. I guess that's what it really is, to go in small little steps to make sure the structure is built solidly for then these offshoots into all kinds of amazing directions, to be well grounded, well put in soil. And it is interesting that this is that bridge between Capricorn and Aquarius energy, to build that solid structure first, hold everything perfectly in place before we fork off into that more kind of unaccounted space for into the unknown, and to that Aquarian zone of freedom and, you name it, limitless openings to new frequencies, new dimensions. It's an amazing time to live in, actually. I guess we all know that. The midheaven here in Aries, the Leo rising, yes, this chart definitely brings that enthusiasm, that fire, that pioneering spirit, with a beautiful late Pisces moon, honoring where we're coming from, integrating that big cycle we are coming out of, and bringing it to a healing, a clarifying on many levels, all in the 9th house. Yes, this is definitely a very spiritual chart. Also with all those planets, Jupiter and Saturn, naturally the Sun, Mercury, all in house 6. And there's this interception here, which indicates that for healing to happen, it has to be first very protected and concealed in a way. it's a process which first has to come to a completion within a cocoon. You could say that is what an interception is. You see there's no house cusp running through Capricorn, 7th house cusp at 1 degree Aquarius, and here the 6th house starts in late Sagittarius, so that's what interception means. Anyway, again, I just really pulled this chart out because you see it's again this 1 degree, 2 degrees, the first, second degree of Leo and Aquarius, which is highlighted, and if we go back here, that is, you see the new moon and the black moon and earth here on the other side. So now let's just focus on this chart for a while and see what now really the implications are for what's coming. What stands out is the Saturn Venus conjunction, Venus closing in on Saturn here at the 6th house cusp. Yes, this is showing the severity of the situation regarding health and healthcare and healing and illness and all that stuff. This is a very somber energy of coming to terms and accepting that deep wound as a premise of awakening, and it's in Aquarius. Yes, that helps in a way because it takes kind of the emotional charge out of it to a big degree, allows it to be more detached, observant. It's what it is. It's just part of that script of how Earth is awakening, how we come together as a collective. So first of all, with the black moon here, see within actually just a very short time, 7:27:47 is when the black moon is exactly conjunct the Earth. And the black moon, I should mention, is the mean black moon I'm using here. It is that axis. The moon is kind of wavering in its motion, so this exact degree is changing all the times. It's like the waves going up and down, so you take the median of if the ocean would be quiet as the real measuring point. That's what the black moon here really is. The other one is called the osculating lunar apogee, if you're an astronomer, or some astrologers work with that one too. My experience is that median, the mean black moon, and I like to call it the black moon. Some astrologers call it Lilith. The danger there is an asteroid called Lilith, so I don't want to confuse that. That's why I keep calling it the black moon, and it makes sense. It's kind of where the moon is farthest away, it is most dark, it is most black. It's that deep abyss energy which you are feeling yourself surrounded by pure blackness, darkness, that womb of where really, which is where the light is born. That is that beautiful alchemistical understanding of the shadow. If we 100% allow for that energy to be pulled into it, to disappear into it, we will be reborn. Light will be on the other side. It is that embrace of the shadow which makes us become one. So this is all in this year's chart. So this is an extraordinary chart within, as I say, 7:27:47, and you see the new moon then is 8:53, so that's an hour and whatever, 20 minutes and something later when the new moon will be exact. So this is extremely close. I guess that only happens once every, I don't know how many years, 20, 30 years, that we have a new moon that close to the place where the moon is farthest or closest to our planet. And yes, again, you see here we had before, we had the 16th, 17th degree of Gemini here when the black moon entered Leo, which was highlighted. Now it is the 15th, 16th degree. Again, I want to zoom back here to this once more. See, that is around the time, yes, pretty much in a month from now, when Mars is getting here into the center stage. So it's a gradual build up, and it's interesting how the sun is very active these days. There were a whole bunch of X-class and M-class flares. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to actually first do a recording, but with all the chaos I have been facing here, and my I didn't have a microphone, no camera, nothing, because everything is in my suitcase naturally, so I just finally was able to set myself up. And anyway, the long story short, there were really big solar flares in the first 10 days, 15 days of January. The sun has meanwhile slowed down a little bit, but be ready for the next big batch of solar flares in the first 10 days of February. I will show you later. I mean, it's pretty obvious. The energies are really building up there, heliocentrically particularly. So this is the same moment as seen from the sun, that moment of new moon, where Earth at 1:32 here, sun at 1, well, I mean, it's heliocentric, it's just there shown as a projection. So anyway, the sun is in the middle, Earth is here. You see, that's what these two charts have exactly in common. Here we stand on Earth in that sense, looking at the sun. Naturally, we are on the opposite end here of the scale, the other side of the zodiac. And the same thing here, if we are standing on the sun tentatively. Naturally, it's way too hot there to stand, but maybe not. I mean, yeah, we don't know. It's all a telltale. Nobody has been there really. I mean, sure, there's heat coming from the sun, but maybe that's just produced within the atmosphere. Who knows? I mean, we have to be open to all kinds of things we have not yet personally experienced. Keep an open mind. Anyway, so if we would stand on the sun, so to say, then you would see Earth here at 1:32 Leo. So when the sun is expressing through Aquarius, Earth is in Leo. This is another one which not many astrologers really emphasize. That's also true in your personal chart. If you're born an Aquarius, then your Earth is in Leo, period. And that's true for all signs. So always honor your opposing sign. That's where you're meant to bring your qualities, your solar qualities down to, and incarnate them, really give them expression. So in that sense, that Aquarian energy of surprise, of all kinds of that innovation and that colorfulness is to be manifested on Earth, and we have to, when we have that Aquarian energy strong, yes, it's come onto stage and share what you have to show us. Be the juggler and stand in the center of the stage and take on the heat. Be in the light. Shine. That's the word here in one. Yes, in one word. Anyway. So let's see what this chart tells us. Jupiter Chiron conjunction, becoming most exact in the early days of February. Another sign that something there is culminating. There will be quite something. Also, Mars by that time will be perfectly squaring that Jupiter and Chiron. The Mars Jupiter square actually is really what makes me strongly think of strong solar flares around that time, the first week of February. So let's see where that goes. But in this yearly chart we have that Jupiter Chiron conjunction. Whenever Jupiter is aligned with another planet, this enlarges this energy, makes it louder, bigger, gives it volume, gives it, it's kind of like underlining it, highlighting it with a marker, things like that. So Chiron's energy is super marked here, and in the Libran decanate and dwad by now I should say, having crossed the 15 degrees mark, between 15 and 1730, this is purely Libran territory, so to say, as the fractal principle. Each of the 12 signs is contained in every sign, and then there's subdwards, and you can really fractalize that down to very, very small increments. So what does that say? It's the Libra quality, and Libra is actually super important for Chiron. It is that ability to truly share with one another, that help towards healing, picking other people up exactly where they are. It is that ability to just humble service and being there for one another without judgment. Very, very important, because you don't know the story where this other person is coming from. It's kind of an intersection in time and space, and we come with our own history, our own recollection of experiences, and this other person, this other being, comes from a totally different angle. So what do you know? We have just to be open in that sense to whatever unfolds in that setting, in that moment. That is kind of the energy I'm getting here from this beautiful Chiron Jupiter conjunction in the 8th house. Yes, the 8th house, so it's going really deep, it's going to the core. That scorpionic intimacy. The 8th house, is resonating with the 8th sign, for those of you who are new to that concept. Houses and signs are again two different levels of, and they work in pairs and come and overlap, and it's kind of how astrology is working. For those of you who are kind of new, you will learn as we go, trust me. So don't feel overwhelmed, and if you want to take a break, just stop it and then continue in an hour or tomorrow or whenever. Beautiful. The asteroid Ceres here in a perfect T-square to the power axis, the axis of consciousness, love and light, I like to call it often. It's the axis of power, it's the spine of this chart, with Juno here, Ceres here at the equatorial point here, really close to the ascendant, together with Orcus and Ceres. Ceres is nurturing, it's the motherly love of taking care of one another. Again, very, very beautiful, powerful. Nessus on the other side, that's what we are caring for. All the wounded and hurt and disoriented, those who are just emerging from darkness. Orcus is alchemy, transformation. Theros is Mother Bear's instinct of protection. A beautiful, powerful axis here of energies in a perfect it's almost like, you see, this is a stable axis, and then if you think of the centrifugal effect, these are the 2 points which are most kinetically energized. It's where you're pulling most to the right side or most to the left side. So these are supercharged points, these T-square points to the power axis. It's kind of, this is holding the ground, so to say, and this is the two arms reaching out and dancing with one another. One way to look at the chart. These are really the interaction points with the world. This is where you're holding still within yourself, and this is true also for naturally an incarnation of a year or whatever. Further, the Venus-Neptune conjunction stands out absolutely here in the 7th house. Again, this is heliocentric, so you see there's always these many layers, and the heliocentric I always look at in important charts. It gives a totally different layer of information. The heliocentric is the energy emitting from the sun. That's the energy each electron, each photon is charged up with, is coded with, and that's what we are feeding on. This is really the etheric fuel which is running everything, which is making things go in our manifested world, as experienced naturally first and foremost through the geocentric perspective of where planets appear to be as seen from Earth. But always this heliocentric energy is in the background, and this Venus-Neptune, again, you see, bridges the gap from what we said before between Saturn and Neptune. Saturn being the one which truly brings clarification about the Neptunian chaos and sorts it all out, structures it so it can be seen and perceived in a clear way. So Venus-Neptune, yes, this is universal love at best, I guess, and it is in that late phase of Pisces, which is universal, collective, empathic, helping one another. And the hexagram here, the 64 hexagrams, if you all lay those, is 36, darkening of the light. Again, an indication, yes, it's about embracing that darkness and understanding that this is where the healing first has to happen, first and foremost, by really embracing that darkness and the ability to discern and see what truly matters and where the shadow really is coming from. It is that alien frequency which at first, disconnected from everything, is neutral, but if it then infests and becomes parasitic, then it expresses a negative and in negative expressions, as I said, which often are then seen as evil, but we have to be super careful with that. Again, just to say it once more because it's so important. So again, I could say many more things about this chart. Let's just keep rolling here. What else I have lined up for you? Right, okay, I thought this was interesting. Just one day after that new moon, we have Uranus turning direct, stationary direct. That's what SD is standing for. Uranus, as seen from Earth's perspective, Earth being here, the Sun being on this side, so it is always when from Earth's perspective we get far away from these planets, in that sense, radially speaking, then they start appearing to move forward again. These are important turning points. You see, the day before, Uranus is still moving backwards. Actually, I just see something. Okay, I have here the heliocentric chart. That is not what I wanted, even though it is telling two. Let me just change that quickly to give you what I really want to show you. Where is it here? 198. Okay. Here it is. Then we highlight this and then we say shift from helio to geocentric, and I redraw it, and then you see where we're getting here. Okay, that's the chart I really want to show you. Because see, on the 21st, Uranus 1456 still retrograde. This little R here, this little red one, means it still appears to move backwards as seen from Earth, and then a day later, that is the moment when it is at absolute standstill and starting to move forward again. Naturally, whenever a planet is stationary, it's super enlarged. That is super important too, to know. We have this Aquarius new moon, Aquarius again, the sign of Uranus, and Uranus being stationary, just one day away or so from turning direction. So Uranus is super powerful, making this year even more so a Uranian year, a year of innovation, of new direction, of bringing that higher frequency from the sky and rooting it, giving it a proper soil, allowing it to grow and become visible. And speaking of all the alternative technologies and you name it, healing technologies and free energy devices, all of that, this is definitely a big theme of this year, particularly as Jupiter is joining Uranus in Taurus after May the 10th or something, around that time, somewhere in May, Jupiter is entering Taurus too. So that's probably when things are lightening up a little more. We will see probably a little bit of a real dark period between early March and mid-May, be prepared for that. It is just the nature of things. It's the passage we have to go through to ground ourselves, to expand who we are, and really grow a bigger heart in many ways said. So Uranus, yes, Uranus turning direct. What I found interesting is the placement of Pallas here at the pretty much at the center point of the chart, where light is created. Love is at the bottom and light is above. That's kind of the polarity, the natural polarity. From love we generate light, and with Hygeia here at the core of the chart, at the bottom of the chart, it's really all about health. Health is center stage. I guess there's no question to that. And Pallas on the other side gives us the scientific understanding of what all that implies, what we are experiencing right now, breaking it down into patterns and observational details, creating structures and statistics and whatnot, and making it really visible what's going on. This is also the degree of the United States Sun at 1319. So there will be the second and then the third conjunction Pallas has with the American nation Sun over the next few weeks and months. So super important. It is the awakening starting in that nation and in Brazil. These are the two nations I see as really the cutting edge of this awakening. You can go back to my Brazilian recording. It's showing you the whole story into summer 2023. It's really remarkable. It's not coming easy. We have to fight for it, but it's happening. So anyway, I found this interesting with this Pallas here in midheaven, particularly if we now look at this chart, the year of the water rabbit, as seen for Washington DC, has exactly that same degree. You see 15, 16 here in the global chart when Uranus turns direct, and the day prior when the new year, the new Chinese year starts in Washington, that same degree. I guess it's pretty telling. That's what we are seeing. This will be the starting point of where dominoes really are falling, and even more so, look at this bottom degree here, the root of this chart where the energy is really streaming in from Earth. And if we go to this chart here, is when Mars was turning stationary direct on January the 12th. Where was the moon? 2656 Virgo. And again, this is what is at the root of this chart. I think it's worth reading this degree once more here in the Sabian symbols. Let's just find it. That is the 27th degree of Virgo. A group of aristocratic ladies meet ceremonially at a court's function. Okay. The keynote: the ability to carry on a revered tradition in order to perpetuate cultural standards of excellence. This is a super interesting degree. It's about continuation. It's about to admit all that chaos and reconstruction of everything. We have to make sure we hold fast on core values and make sure we are not wholesale throwing everything overboard, but we keep that what matters and save it. The commentary here is, at the highest peak of achievement of any fully developed culture, the king considers himself in some manner of representative of power that controls the order of the universe. From him descends a hierarchy of offices performed by an aristocracy. On the feminine side, to be an aristocrat is to be able to act differently and efficiently in the many rituals of culture, from official tea parties to presentations at the court. Dignity, elegance, and respect for formal rules are essential. You get it. It's that structural integrity which is super important. Now, this is particularly meaningful as we are moving forward. I guess I did saturate you here with many ideas. I think I should call it a day here with my recording. Just one more thing I want to quickly run you through, as Mars is just starting to gain traction. Since New Year's Day, when Mars went retrograde over this degree 900, since then it has been in the 9th degree of Gemini. That's where it turned at 807. The 9th degree of Gemini, as I laid out in my last recording, I guess has that Sabian symbol of many arrows in the quiver, multiple ways of expressing itself, many options there are. This is an extremely rich way of using its power and force. Many options there are, and it really tunes and makes sense with that Mercury Hygeia conjunction here, which again we had in that 150 degrees aspect here, with Mercury still moving backwards. It's about finding the right words and the right expressions to tune into everybody in their own way, to speak the language of the person you want to reach. That's pretty much what it means. And then so for 24 days Mars has been in that 9th degree, and now again entering the 10th degree. The 10th again is the end of a 5 degree sequence, and the 10th degree, yes, I have prepared this, I should read it to you. I mean, sorry, it just always gets longer than I want, but it's the nature of things. Again, you can stop it at any moment and take a break. So the 10th degree of Gemini, that is an airplane performing a nosedive. Yeah, that's what we will be experiencing. A superior ability to challenge nature and play with danger. So there's some major moves ahead between the 24th and the 30th of January. This will be a super interesting window in time and history. And then we enter the 11th degree, which, as Mars still moves so slowly, Mars will be in here again for 5 days, and naturally gaining momentum. These episodes will get shorter and shorter, but I thought I want to read you these 2 degrees. The 11th says, newly opened lands offer the pioneer new opportunities for experience. Rising to the occasion, it says here as a keynote. So this will open us to a whole new set of possibilities and ways to express ourselves, starting on the 30th of January and then on the 4th of February, entering the 12th degree, and from there on it moves faster and faster. But let me just read the 12th degree. A Negro girl, well, that's the language here of this big book, fights for her independence in the city. Liberation from the ghosts of the past. Interesting. So it's getting really, we're building up here a momentum, while newly opened lands, which is the degree prior between the 30th and the 4th of February, it will be the newly opened lands which become our new playgrounds. They theoretically offer virgin fields for experience. In fact, this is just preparing the ground, and then we are getting into the phase of really inhabiting these new areas and expressing from having really started to take possessions of that frequency and liberating from ghosts of the past. Super interesting times we are moving in this next short 10 to 15 days. Again, thank you for joining, listening, and talk to you soon. Okay.